Anyone's first time?
It's mine because I was one.
Yeah.
I have to let you guys know we're never going to be more than 3 rooms away from an emergency exit. So if you feel claustrophobic, or you feel sick or whatever, just let me or Miss Casera know. We'll let you out, okay? This is what we call the entrance room. Does anyone have any idea we call it that?
Because it's the entrance.
That's right, because we just came from the entrance over there. Directly above you, we have a type of rock. Can you listen to what type of rock this is?
It's a wall.
We're not done.
I'm so smart.
I think I heard it. What was it?
Lime rock.
It is limestone. This rock is limestone. Now, does anyone have any idea how these caves were formed? I did, yeah, you're right. It is. So many, many years ago, Florida was covered by a vast, warm, shallow sea. There's a lot of marine life living in it, and over time, as they died and decomposed, it just fell to the bottom and it got compacted by sand over and over and over again until those water levels lowered, leaving the limestone here. Now, the Chipola River used to run through here. Now it doesn't, but that's also how a lot of this was dug out. And then in the 1930s, the CCC workers came in here and expanded it. That way we could have tours in here. Now right now we are standing about 55 feet below the ground. And these markers right here are just from the pandemic. This was just so people would have something to use for social distancing. But now it's not relevant anymore. And over here, this is what we call the basement. It's the lowest point in our cavern. It's about 65 feet below the ground. Right now it's not too flooded, but usually the water can run all the way up to here. Just depends how much is raining. But to get to our next room, we're actually not going to go through there. Instead, we're going to go through what we call the tuck and squeeze. Tuck and squeeze is about 4 feet tall and 2 feet wide. So if you guys will get your duck walks ready, you guys can follow me this way. Here. So this is what we call the wedding room, and the reason we call this the wedding room is because of the wedding cake right behind me. Now I had to make sure we had some music playing, so I had to make sure the organs were here. You know what type of music they play?
Wedding music.
No.
Rock music.
That's right, they play hard rock. Now if you look right above you, it's what we call stalactites. And then right beneath it, this is what we call stalagmite. A really good way to tell the difference is stalactites hang on tightly to the ceiling, and stalagmites, if you're not paying attention when you're walking, you might trip over one, so make sure to watch your step, okay? Now, once they reach the middle point, they form a column like the one in the background right there. But because we do host weddings in here, every year we have about 3 or 4, and it only costs you $250 to host it, so pretty good price. Any questions about this room?
I kind of have a question.
This room doesn't have a name to it, but there's like 2 or 3 things we go over. 25 of those dollars had to go back to their families, and then they would only be left with $5 for the Disney Castle. And right here, this brimstone pool. Right now, it's not very filled with water, but usually when it is, it looks like a dolphin from SeaWorld. This was during the Great Depression. So this sent a man named Oliver Shalafo as a land surveyor to see what they could do with the land. And when he came that weekend, it was raining really hard, and it uprooted a lot of trees. But in particular, there was this one tree that left a big hole behind. And just like any other logical Florida man, he saw a hole, and he went in it. And so that's how these caves were discovered. The Florida government sent the CCC workers, or the Civilian Conservation Corps, which a lot of young men, 18 through 25, and they had just come out of the World War I. And so they sent them here for a job to excavate these caves. That way they could have some tours here, because they saw that Alabama people had their own caves and they were making a lot of good profit from it. So why not have their own tours here in Florida as well? And so these men would come in here and excavate these caves for them. Now this rock right here has a lot of different names. Some people call it the caveman soccer ball, or Dwayne the Rock Johnson, or a dinosaur egg. But it did serve a real purpose during the Great Depression, and that was a marker. The CCC workers would tie a rope around their waist and a rope around the rock, and then they would take about 100 yards that way, digging out the cave. And if their carbon lantern like this one ever went out, then they would just follow the rope back to their starting spot and get new materials out from the entrance. Now, since you've been in here, you've probably felt a few water droplets on you, and that's what we call cave kisses. You get 5 or more, that means you get good luck for the rest of the day. But if you listen closely, you can actually hear the cave heart beating.
That's really good.
Alright, so this is what we call the waterfall room. And for any Star Wars fans, this is what you're going to call the Jabba the Hutt room, because of this stone right here. This is what we call a flowstone. There's one right here and one over there. Please no touching. Please no touching. Sorry. Now, the way these form is water comes from the surface, goes into this little gap right here, and then it deposits minerals on its way down into these cascading rimstone pools. Now, if you pull out your flashlight and look right above you, you're going to see a lot of seashells, and that's because this room has the highest concentration. Yeah, a lot of seashells right here. You might find a sand dollar, and if you look closely, you'll find a sea urchin, a fossilized sea urchin. First, I want to go over how brimstone pools form. So basically, water comes from the surface, and if it goes through dead fossil life, it's going to pick up something called carbonic acid. And if you look at the floor beneath you, there's a lot of brain-like patterns here. That's all because of carbonic acid. Carbonic acid has the power to disintegrate minerals and redistribute them along the edges. The most common animal is ducks. They're the most common animal in caves. You know why? Protection. Because we're ducking everywhere we go.
Divorce room.
This is the divorce room. So you got married, now you're already getting divorced. What happened in between? So basically, that right there is what we call a fracture or a divorce column. So the educational name for this room is actually the fracture room. But the reason these form is because right now you're standing above the Florida aquifer. And as those water levels rise and lower, it creates a pressure shift. And over time, they can create fractures like that one right there. Now the good thing is these fractures can get back together. And if you're standing over here, you can probably get a better look of it. But there's a scar left behind right there. That just shows that once there was a fracture that happened there, but over time, those minerals are redeposited, leaving that scar behind.